Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Liberation Podcast. Today we will be discussing, analyzing, and reviewing Eileen by Ottessa Moshfegh. If you don't know, in eastern Kentucky there was some major flash flooding, mudslides, and then freezing, all that happened within a span of a few days. Kristen reached out to a local mutual aid organization that is raising money for multiple families and people in the community who were affected by this devastating weather. We will link their CASHAPP and PayPal and Instagram below. Please donate if you're able to. For more content outside of the podcast, please check out our Instagram and TikTok at Literary Liberation and Twitter at LitLibPodcast. I'm your co-host Mariah, and you can find me at Hungry Rye on all social media platforms.
And I'm your co-host, Kristen. You can find me at KRXXGXN on all social media platforms. Let's get right into this book.
Any comments on my page as I'm scrolling up to the top of this, but saying in my defense that I was a professional podcaster, and that meant that I knew what I was doing. And I was like, you know what? I don't know if I
Wait,
agree
where
with
did they
you,
say
but
this at?
I'll have to send it to you on some post. They're like, they actually have like a podcast. So, and I was like, I've never had that be like a point of authority, but I guess it means something.
We bought microphones and sit on Discord once a week, so we know what we're talking about. Actually,
Who would have thought? So this has been fun because we originally read My Year of Rest and Relaxation very early on
well,
in our
first off,
podcasting career.
we read
And
this
then
with the book club
this too. We read this with the book club, and I'm
on
gonna be
Fable.
real. I don't think Kristen and I don't think either of us really wanted to read it. We just threw it out
I
there.
voted for it on the poll.
Oh,
No, because I
I
didn't
thought
know. I was like,
I wanted to read the other
none,
one, if I'm gonna be honest.
none of the
But
other ones sounded too interesting to me. Because, like, there was, like, If I Had Known Men, because those two tied, If I Had Known Men and then this. But I thought for the book club, because the way If I Had Known Men is, like, structured, where it's not multiple chapters, it's just one, and doing that on the way Fable does their book clubs, because it's not like Storygraph with a buddy read where, like, you put in your percentage and you make a comment. It's chapter by chapter broken down. And so doing that on Fable for the book club, doing I Who Have Never Known Men, where there's just like basically we can only talk about the book whenever we've all finished it, and it's just in like that one chapter section. That kind of was dumb to me, and I was like,
oh
this doesn't
yeah,
work
for
for a book club.
the sake of the book club, we ended up going with this.
So I was like,
We have
okay,
some
we
other
have to do
ones up
Eileen.
there. The Woman by Kristen something.
Hannah.
She wrote
Kristen
Nightingale
Hannah.
and Four Winds. Yes. And there was one other one. I don't remember what was on there, but it
Something
didn't.
about dolls.
Yeah, there's someone. Anyways, any of them
They
probably would have been
lost.
a little bit more engaging than this one. So if you're expecting a positive review, I'm just gonna spoil it for you. That's not what this is gonna be. If you don't know what Eileen is, honestly, I
Keep
don't
it that
either.
way.
But
I'd
so
say if you haven't read the book, don't read the book, just watch the movie. Because I just watched the movie like right before filming this. And the movie is like significantly better than the book, which is like sacrilege to say as like somebody who loves reading. But like, do not waste your time reading Eileen, just watch the movie. It's a very accurate movie, I would say too. And I think the movie does the story better, paces it better. So I can talk about the differences and stuff whenever
but
we
that's the thing is like this is so popular. I did not realize how popular it was. I didn't even know there was a movie based on it until we started it with the book club. I just knew
I
about it because
literally
people always
told you there was
recommended.
I told you there was
I
a
don't know
movie
why
in
there was
the
a
episode.
disconnect.
No, because we talked about the movie whenever we did Ottessa Moshfegh's last book, whenever we did My Year of Rest and Relaxation, because I was like, it's kind of interesting that they made a book out of Eileen and not or they did a movie out of Eileen, which isn't even Ottessa Moshfegh's most popular book. It's My Year of Rest and Relaxation. But this makes
Yeah,
sense.
but I think they were originally going to make or they are planning on
I
making
think they
a
are,
Year of Rest and
yes. Or like
Relaxation
somebody
movie
has
as
the
well.
movie rights
I
and is gonna
don't
be
know
working
who's
on it.
signing off on all of this, but
I think Eileen did work better as a movie than it did as a book. I will say that. And I think that the actress that played as Eileen in the movie, she did a good job. And they characterized Eileen differently in the movie too, which I can talk about more whenever we get into the spoilers.
If you don't know, Eileen Dunlop works at a boys' correctional
Juvenile.
facility, juvenile,
Yeah.
like juvie. I don't know if they call it that where you're at, but where I'm at, if
Yeah.
you're a bad minor, you're going to juvie. So that's basically what it was in the 60s, I think,
Yes.
is when
Yeah.
it was set.
Yep.
And it's in New England, and it's about the week leading up until Christmas.
Following this girl where you don't know what happens on Christmas, but you know something crazy does. And it requires Eileen to flee the state. You kind of get that in like the first chapter.
It's very ambiguous. It kind of makes it seem like it's going to be a little bit more of a thriller than it's going to be. It's very slow paced. This is a character study, I
It's not
guess.
a thriller. Who's ever categorizing it as a thriller?
Yeah,
Get
remember
out of
when we
here.
looked at, Goodreads, one of the recommended,
Yeah.
and that could be like an AI generated thing.
I don't
Whoever
know.
recommended that as a thriller,
This is the least thrilling thriller you will ever read.
but anyway, she ends up meeting a woman named Rebecca who is beautiful, and she like is super enchanted by this individual because Eileen has a lot of
Insecurities.
self-doubting. She's like the weird girl. She doesn't fit into society, you know? So she sees this person, she gets kind of like obsessive over her. And so apparently some people think this is similar to Vladimir Nabokov. If you Lolita,
Lolita?
author of Lolita and Shirley Jackson, I guess. I I don't
What?
know. I would say that, but that's what it was.
I think
I'm telling
if
you,
you
this
like my
is an
year of
experience.
I think if you like my year of rest and relaxation, you'll probably like this too. Like it's Otesha Moshfegh, and I think like after reading this, I don't need to read another one of her books personally.
No, because I can already see the pattern, and it's not
Well,
gonna
because
work for
like my problem is too is that I think like Otesha Moshfegh, like yes, she was writing like sick characters and like disgusting characters and like characters that you're meant to hate, but it's like not like compelling to even hate them, you know? Like it's just like what's the sickest individual I can think of and this is what I'm writing down, where it doesn't even feel like it's an actual like study about like why these things happen or why people are this way or anything like that, you know? It's just like this is fucked up and isn't that fucked up? That's how like
and
Otesha
maybe we can get into,
Moshfegh's
like,
like
why that is, because I have a theory, and I went through because I was looking at controversies. The first time we did this was, like, 2 years ago when I was looking her up. I didn't
it was
see
only a year
anything.
ago.
It feels like it was so much longer ago. 'Cause we filmed it, we pre-filmed it, and it was, like,
Yeah,
we
but
recorded in
so we
2023.
filmed it. No, we did not film it in 2023. We
No,
read
I
it
was
in 20.
2024.
Yes, but we only recorded it like probably around this time whenever we're filming this because it went up in June. And I think we filmed it in like Marchish, probably, I would say.
There's been a lot that's transpired in my researching how much stuff we've read, but I remember not seeing a whole lot about her except for that she had signed that the
But letter
the
about
letter
I don't know what the
Israel,
name is.
but
Yeah,
not
that's like
like
there's like some letter that was like in 2021 written that was signed by like people like Angela Davis and stuff like that where they were like basically like we need to investigate Israel for their crimes. Sign off on this if you agree. And then like she signed off on it and that was like it. Which like yes, but like also like I haven't seen her speak up about anything related to like Palestine or anything since like even after like after 2021 she hasn't said anything. Like that's like the only thing I
oh,
saw.
'cause she doesn't, she refuses. She, like, remains apolitical on purpose,
Which I
and
don't
I
know how
think
you
that's really frustrating, and when we had originally talked about my year in rest and relaxation, one of the points that had gotten brought up was kind of her saying some problematic stuff on the Bret Easton Ellis podcast,
yes.
where
Where she
she's
was
like basically played into the whole like, oh, what is it? The Ben Shapiro, like the most oppressed individual. Like, I'm gonna write a main character with this so then I can get published because they were trying to make
They were
a
like saying only minorities get awards or whatever because they're minorities is like her sentiment. That's like what she said basically. Which like
was
paraphrasing.
very edgelord and no, I think it was way worse than like the
Yeah.
way you made it sound way nicer. And I have like a link to something that was talking about it too. So if anyone wants to read up on it,
I just remember it was like a very like distasteful like comment what she was saying.
pretty much like the typical like mediocre white author take where they just can't write a good book, but like somebody say the author of Oathbound or whatever it gets an award.
Tracy Dion.
Yeah, which is
That's
coming
the
up and
author.
all this popularity and they're like, "Oh, well, I wrote this," and it's like so speculative and it's really not. Um
Sorry, I have my book right here, my Oathbound copy that I'm reading. But yeah, so
oh,
she's
okay.
just like kind of a freak.
She
And like
yeah,
and
this
again,
is I already knew this was gonna be difficult to talk about because we can get into the spoilers of it and like our overarching thoughts and reviews because there's some things that I read in the articles and about Otessa Moshfegh and her family and stuff that I think will make more sense if we
contextually.
can just like talk about the book in its
Well, maybe
entirety.
we should talk about the popularity and stuff first because it was nominated for lots of awards, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Or
it
was
got
it?
the Booker Prize nominee, or it was a nominee in
Okay.
2016. It was a nominee in 2015 for the Shirley Jackson Award, a nominee for the National Book Critics Circle
Oh,
Award in
so she didn't win
2016.
any awards.
Oh,
She was
so
just
yeah,
nominated.
he's only won 2, which was the Center of Fiction First Novel Prize. No, that was a nominee as well. She got the Hemingway Award for debut novel in 2016, and that is it for this book specifically.
Yes. For
So
Eileen. And
it's
this was
been
her debut
nominated.
novel.
Yeah. So that I mean, it got thrown into that. It's gotten quite a lot of traction. It has over 800,000 ratings, averaging oh, wait, no, that's
Wait,
all of her
what?
ratings. Sorry. I found out that on Goodreads you can see all of an author's books and how they average in rating.
Oh.
This
I didn't.
book has gotten 118,000-ish
Which is
ratings.
less than My Year of Rest and Relaxation.
Yeah,
That
with an
one's
average 3.57 stars and 17, almost 18,000 written reviews. My Year of Rest and Relaxation, I believe, rated higher.
yeah, I think so.
But on
Not much.
average, her books get 3.57 stars. And she has over 800,000 ratings. So that gives
Kind
you
of
any
middle of the
idea.
road.
Uh, Less than great, like pretty run of the mill. Like people who really like her. And you can find them on the internet. Like if you type in like the weird girl lit fic, there's like the people they eat this shit up. And I think that's fine. It's certainly not something I enjoy.
No.
And I can make a case on why I don't think anyone should enjoy this. Um,
No. I mean, it's not quite Credence levels, but I will say that it's.
but at least there was a story there. There was something going on. I watched I read
I
it.
wanted to read that.
Uncle Jake. I mean, oh my god, give me something. I felt like pulling teeth trying to read this.
This
This was
was
the
so
longest,
boring.
what, 200 pages? It was barely
It's
over.
not over 300. It's less than 300.
It's not long, but this felt like it was 700 pages long. My god, I want this felt like, oh, what was that fanfic you read?
Manacled?
It's like, yeah, because that's like
That was.
what, 1100 pages.
I don't remember
Oh
how
my
long it
god,
was, and I read it
it was
all.
rough. It was rough, and the dauntingness of like an 1100 page book, but put into this is like the overarching
Fan
feeling I
fiction
had the whole
pages are
time.
different than regular pages. I just like
No,
just
but
so
like
you
it's
know.
like somebody
Fan
telling you
fiction
to
is
read like The
different.
Count of Monte Cristo, and you're like, oh my god. That's like the feel like it's just long and drawn out, and I gave it a 2 star. Surprisingly,
I give
Kristen
it
and I
two
rated it.
stars.
We
Yeah.
both gave it 2 stars.
Usually,
Um,
I was surprised he didn't rate it higher. I was like, damn, Mariah's probably eating this up. It's stupid.
At the beginning, I was like, "Okay, I can, like, get on board,"
I
and
didn't like
then
this from the beginning. I was like,
the the pacing of this, I understand a character study. I completely understand a character study.
if you have an actual
What are we
analysis of that
studying?
character, like, there's
I
nothing there.
We have to get so sorry, there's gonna be spoilers. Neither of us recommend it. Sorry, we put the book
Watch
club
the
through this.
movie.
I
Watch
I
the movie.
apologize.
Watch the
Watch
movie.
the
Watch the
movie.
movie.
This
I
is
will die
like
on that
how
hill.
I
Watch
feel
the movie.
about American Psycho, where I think the movie is superb, or, like, I've heard
The movie's not
Starship
superb, okay? Like, it you have to
Troopers or
remember
whatever, you know, it's just like the movie's better. This is one of
well
those cases, the movie's gonna be better, and I'll take your word for it, Kristen. I
well,
will
because, like,
on this one.
it's accurate to the book, yes. Like, that's the thing, and I don't like the book. But for Eileen and the way that the story is, the book is like, yes, it's less than 300 pages, but it feels longer than that. And you're still devoting. I think like my Kindle clocked me at reading at like 6 hours ish was like the total I read for the book. I don't know how long it was for you, but the movie's only an hour and a half. Like, you'd be better off spending your hour and a half time watching that movie, and you get the whole story. It's very accurate to the book, but you're not it's not drawn out. The pacing is better, I think, for the movie because in the book, I think it's what, like not till almost like 40% Rebecca is introduced. Rebecca is introduced in the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, yeah,
And
'cause
that's like
that's
the
the whole
main
thing, because
pushing
you're
point
told
of
in
the
the description that, oh,
yeah.
like, she meets Rebecca. When do you normally meet another character in a
That's
book?
supposed to be so integral to the plot that it's like described as being integral to the plot. And I would argue Rebecca is a very important character to the plot, you know? She's the one that gets shit moving. I want to follow Rebecca's story. Change this shit to Rebecca, follow her. I don't care about Eileen.
So,
But
anyways, this is our
watch the
our
movie
intro
if you care. I think
into
it's
the
very accurate.
story.
You'll get the same beats, everything. The Some of the straight conversations are ripped directly out of the book too. So I do think it's a very accurate adaptation. It's interesting because Moshfegh was also credited as screenwriter with someone else. So I think it is very accurate to the book, but it is better done to the book because I think the movie's pacing is better than what the book is. But yeah.
Alright, let's do this. Okay, 1, I think the reason I read a review from Andrea Longchu. I don't know what their pronouns are. I think I read somewhere that they're trans, but I don't know where that landed in the article called Atessa Moshfegh is praying for us. The author has been hailed as a high priestess of filth. Really, she just wants to purify her readers. That's the article name. I don't know what. So I'm just going to use they, them for preface. They made a really good point, though. In this article, I was reading through it. They were talking about how Otessa Moshfegh really, like, was happy with being referenced, like, her books being, like, Lolita. And
I would not argue,
she
not that I've read Lolita, but like I can like Lolita is hailed as like classic, like true literature, you know, where it's like actually like a critique on society and critique on people. And I like this does remind me of the Bluest Eye, where it reminds me that the Bluest Eye does whatever Eileen is trying to do 10 times better.
Yes, but, like, the fundamental difference, right, is that Toni Morrison isn't afraid to make a political agenda
Yeah.
in her novels, whereas, like, um, I almost called her Eileen. Otessa Moshfegh wants to be apolitical
Which
because she
like
has this really weird idea about fiction where she's like, "I don't think you should derive meaning from novels or, like, think too much about them." I am
what?
paraphrasing. She said something fucking weird
I could
about
tell.
novels. I if you could see what we're seeing, I copied and pasted a ton of stuff in here.
Yeah, I do see. There's class as a frequent theme in her fiction. That detail about a rusty car appeared in a recent story, but Moshfegh has no interest in class critique. Turning her grade school scissors into a paper thin picture of normal people, she is against phonics of all tax brackets, not the commodity form. She means to widen consciousness, not raise it.
I did like that. That's why I highlighted that point. Just trying to remember how I wanted to, like, go about bringing it up.
Well, because I
Mm,
mean, like, you do have Eileen, who's like a working class woman who is like, in the 60s, 50s, like, still that era, like, after World War II, like, yes, women are going into the workforce, but, like, even reference to, like, her sister and stuff, it's implied that, like, her sister doesn't work because she's a housewife, because she's married, and sort of thing. And then you have Eileen, who is, like, not married and who's frowned upon in society. She lives with her alcoholic father that is frowned upon in society as well. And she goes to work at this, like, juvenile center where she doesn't see like anything wrong with even like how the boys are treated or anything like that until Rebecca brings up something about how like there's a reason like why they put these boys here, and it's like not because they're just like that like Rebecca like sort of introduces that idea of being like the reason
there's a
why these
root
people are
cause,
here. Yeah. Like
and they aren't just like acting violently out of nowhere.
yeah. Which
Which
Rebecca
is an
brings up.
inherently political
Yeah.
stance to have in your books, and I found it. It's because it's not highlighted. In an interview, she had said that, "Let's get clear about that. A novel is a literary work of art meant to expand consciousness. We need novels that live in an amoral universe, past the political agenda described on social media. We have imaginations for a reason." Um,
What?
I just think it's so strange, like, how often in different interviews she refuses to call herself a feminist or, like, a liberal, which, like, I can understand to an extent, but to
If
the
you're not.
point going to have some sort of analysis of society. Your books are supposed to be commentary, like, art is inherently a political thing. There's no
Yes.
way of getting around that,
And
and you're
that's
just
why
like,
her books, I think, end up feeling so lackluster to us specifically as well, because we do view everything within that political lens, and she just like lacks any type of like analysis, political analysis, or even just like a regular analysis to like why you think like even because like so many things are viewed in society as like not political. Like I just sent you a comment earlier today where someone was like, "Oh my god, the reason why COVID was so bad is because they politicized it." Where it's s- like disability and things like that are political whether or not you want to realize that. And I don't think people know like what politics is or anything like that, where they don't realize that you do have to view it in these different lenses because they affect people differently. Like that's what happens.
it's almost like Tessa Moshfegh wants to make it strictly a philosophical kind of thing, like a thought experiment, but you're doing that set in a material reality. This isn't divorced from material reality. There's
No.
nothing strange going on. Like, it's people doing things, and there are real material motivators that cause people to do these things. And if you study the things, you would know them. And that's what is so beyond. Because, like, why put Eileen in a juvenile
Detention
like,
center.
correction, like, yeah,
Yeah.
like, detention center for
That's a
boys.
specifically a Christian one too, because they focus on like them like reading the Bible. They have like that whole play section where they're like performing like Jesus's birth, and there's even like the scene where she takes the blanket off of Jesus to wrap up her little gift for Eileen. Where it's like you having some inherent religious themes that is political, but you don't want to further analyze it, and so it just falls flat. It's just you writing down a statement, and that means nothing.
It's just Eileen doing things, and I think it if it had some sort of, like, motivation that, like, readers could latch onto who are, like, more I'm saying "like" so much in this, but I feel so passionately about how frustrated I was throughout reading this. Seeing somebody where they will do things. And some of the analysis on, like, why things happen the way they do, or why we dress the way that we dress, or interact with other people, having a death mask, Eileen having, suicidal ideations, but being embarrassed of a coroner finding her body, like, these are very real things to
Yeah.
bring up, and don't does Odessa Moshfegh not wonder where those things come from, like, those thoughts? And I know, she on record has been saying that she has struggled with bulimia, but yet in her books, she constantly brings up, like, really fat phobic
Yes.
characters and the mentality that she perpetuates, and it doesn't go much further than that, so it sounds like she hasn't actively worked on, like, unpacking
Yeah.
her ED, and I'm saying this is somebody that has an ED, so I'm well within my scope. It's something you actually have to, like, work through, like,
Yeah.
fat phobia is, like, a thing, and you're using your novel as a means of kind of just, like, spewing the hatefulness inside of your head, which I think is what Otessa Moshfegh wants literature to be. It's just like you say all of the deprived things that are in your brain that you conjure
Yeah.
up, you put it on paper and put it out and like, look, see, I say
I'm
the weird
edgy.
things. I'm saying it out loud. Um, and I
Yeah.
do feel like in 10 to 20 years, she's gonna end up being like Bret Easton Ellis. I did end up going on and looking because another one of these articles I was reading, he wrote a book, a nonfiction memoir essay collection called White, where he basically just rants about how politics and being like white and the internet and canceling are bad. Like it just goes on. And then he defends Trump and Kanye. This was published in 2019. So goofy, so strange. And
Wow.
I was like, you know what, that tracks. But
Yeah.
Bryson Ellis is able to like do this because he's a gay man. So he'll hide behind his identity through that,
Yeah.
which is why he'll write like in American Psycho, the main character is like queer coded and but will say like really homophobic slurs and whatnot. Tessa Moshfegh is doing the same thing in here, but it's
Yeah.
just fat phobia or like the weird like racial slurs
Yeah.
or the way she writes things that don't make any sense. I don't know if you saw that line where she was talking about I can't remember what day,
Well, because she
Monday.
used
She was
the
like,
G
in my
slur.
she used the G slur, right? But then she was like, in my childish self-centeredness, I fantasized that this was what the black boys talked about with their mothers, how much pain Eileen is in,
Oh
how
yeah.
Eileen seems to need a friend, how Eileen deserves better. I hope they saw right through my death mask to my sad and fiery soul, though I doubt they saw me at all. Out of pocket, there's no reason to bring up anything to do with that. There's no context to bring,
No.
like, she wasn't, there's nothing. There's nothing.
There's no
I
like
don't
that's
know
the true
why
thing. There's no
that
like
was
analysis in this book. It's literally just like that's what I hate. Like even My Year of Rest and Relaxation was like this too, where she's literally just like, I can say crazy stuff and it's a book, so and I can get away with it. And then I don't have to have any like true analysis on it because that's what I think literature is, where people can make their own conclusions. Where it's like, okay, so you actually just have nothing to say and you're just a freak.
like, yeah, sure, reading is subjective, but some of the stuff you're saying is rooted in material reality, and we do have, like, facts and logic to back it
Yeah.
up. Like, you can't just say whack-ass shit and then be like, "It's just a book." Like, you
Yeah.
sound like every other white bitch on, like, Book Talk that's like, "No, this is fine. This is
Yeah.
actually fine."
Reading isn't political. I have access to every single bookstore and library within walking distance.
God, we finished this book yesterday, and
Yeah.
I have been holding it all in.
It
Because I don't
was
know how you
so
can write a
bad.
line like, "Oh, people born of privilege are sometimes thus confused," and
And
you're like,
then not
"Actually, it's not political."
yeah.
Or like,
Like
"The last thing we need is for the police to get involved. Mr. Polk was a cop, you know, and if the police actually cared about justice, I wouldn't have had to come here in the first place." But it's
bruh.
not political.
Not political. No political thought. But that's the thing is that she says something like this and then just leaves it at that. Like she just says a statement where there's no like thinking or like anything around where she's just like, I'm just gonna say like bullet points to what I believe. And this is her debut novel, isn't it?
Yeah, in 2015, she
And so, like,
published it.
reading this versus, like, reading My Year of Rest and Relaxation, which I know has been over a year now since we both read it, but it's like nothing has changed, I feel like, within her writing. Like, I don't feel like I've seen any growth either in that way or, like, anything that's, like, telling. Not that I know she's published anything recently.
Then part of me wonders because I was getting into Otesh Samashik's like backstory, getting into the lore. I was like, how does somebody like this come into being and like they write this? I found out that her father used to live in Iran before the revolution, and he was a very wealthy businessman and apparently one of the biggest landowners in the country. And he had like married her mom, and they left. They had to escape because their assets, in a lot of articles, they're being labeled as assets. I don't know what the land was. You can't find anything about this man online. But I looked into like what exactly the Iranian Revolution consisted of and what they were doing. They did like land redistribution. It was like a genuine working class revolution. Was it a Marxist one? No, but there was a lot going on with oil. The USSR was involved in helping build up the Iranian government. They were trying to help prop up resources for them. The US didn't like it because they were involved in Saudi Arabia, and the USSR
Mhm.
was like, "Hey, don't come in here." So there's a lot going, like political turmoil at this time. And I think it's so interesting that he had to just up and leave because of all this peasant revolutions and people were dying. And he was saying, I mean, I don't know for sure that like intellectuals and Jewish people were being massacred. I've also seen the same thing said about the USSR. That people will use that as an excuse during like the Bolshevik Revolution that like, oh, they strategically targeted them. Am I the most read on this? The geopolitical instance, no, but there is a lot of connections between like Red Scare propaganda and how perhaps this was presented in Western media. So everything I
Mhm.
read was from a man named Ted Grant in 1979 on a Marxist um, he must have been writing for a Marxist paper at the time. So I'll have that linked. You can read it and draw your own conclusions from that. But that is what I read for this, and I just think it's very strange that if he was one of the most or like biggest
One of the
land
wealthiest.
owners and businessmen in Iran, and then was targeted. I
Yeah,
I don't know what to you can make of that as you want. How that
your
would
own
influence a
conclusions.
child's politics, and then the way she grew up poor in I think she grew up in New England, like where it was set, and she talked about how I think she used a racial slur to describe the car that they would drive around.
In the
I'm not
book?
gonna say that out loud because I've never seen that. No, it's above the highlighted thing. Um, because
Where?
it's like above the class is a frequent theme
Oh,
in her
this?
fiction. I don't know. I've never
I've never heard of that.
but I'm not gonna say it. But you can again, you can link this. This is in the Vulture article I read on her. So I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff with
Whenever
her,
you
and
look up that word, it just says it means an old car.
I mean, I've never heard that. So I was like, I don't know what that is. It was in quotations, so you can make of that as you will. I just think it's strange if you're somebody that apparently went from being like lower middle class and you I don't know. Very
Okay,
strange.
I'm not seeing anything that this is about a slur.
Well, I'm glad that I'm glad it's
Just so you know. It just I'm not, now you're making me scared to say it.
I just saw it and I was like, because it was in context of like them being a Jewish family, and I was like, I don't know if that's like, I'm not from the East Coast. I don't know what these words mean.
Well, here what we would call it a hoopty. That's what we call those kind of cars.
Okay, we'll use that.
I mean, I guess I don't
um,
know if that's a slur either, but a hoopty, like a beat down, like run down car.
yeah, that's I have also heard that term as well. But
Oh, so
I'm
Mariah's not
just,
gonna say it.
you're like, if I'm going down, you're going down with me.
Mariah co-signs me saying hoopty.
I do. That's how I grew up hearing it. But
I've never
I
heard
think
of
it's very
that term.
strange to write these books, like even in my year of rest and relaxation, where it talks about spoiler alert 9/11,
Is it really
and you're like,
2000s New
it's
York?
not political commentary, but you're gonna bring up
9/11, one of the most
9/11.
political things
I just
that is.
to me, it calls into question what is the utility of bringing up these things? Why write these characters? We haven't even touched on like the
And what's
really
this is
crazy like pedophilic
oh, that was
nature and
disgusting though.
child abuse. It's like is it just for shock value? Because originally we had read
That's
some
what it
stuff
feels
and she
like.
does weird things, which I've read. I read a lot of extreme horror, splatterpunk, so I'm not foreign to these things, but they did just feel out of pocket, like, they don't really add to anything. You could get across that she's weird without bringing it up because it really doesn't
Bringing
do
up
anything for her
children.
character. Like, it does nothing for her
No.
character, like, she's just taking it and analyzing it like she doesn't care.
She doesn't even analyze it, though. She just sees it and like,
No, yeah, she just sees it and hears whatever Rebecca says, and then that's it, and maybe that's all we're supposed to get is that she's I don't know, that
I was gonna say
this is
something, but
this
I
book is
forgot.
so fucking hard to talk about because in the last book, the same thing happens where, like, it'll get crazy, and then everything's fine, everything's washed
And then it
away.
just ends. Like, well, because, like, it's so weird to me the fact that, like, the book is told from, like, the perspective of old lady Eileen, right? Where
Yes,
this
you have,
kid
like, a
didn't even.
second person and also first person mix. So there's, like, a unique element that you get sometimes you feel like the narrator's talking to you as the reader as opposed to
Yeah.
you as you're experiencing Eileen and, like, I don't
But
know,
you would
a diary.
think if you're having, like, the older version of the character about the story that we're reading about, they would be having some type of, like, analysis or, like, thinking about what they experience. Like, this is an old woman, like, she's 80 or something, like, she's like, "I'm going to kick the bucket soon," sort of thing. You think, like, you're looking back on this to, like, critique it and look back on, like, how, like, you're wrong as a child or what you did was wrong, and then you don't even get any of that.
It's a pivotal moment in her life. Like, she escapes the small town that she grew up in. The dead-end town that she never belonged
X-Will.
to or fit in, and she
That pissed me off
experienced
every time she
countless
said that.
different, like I know, it's to be, like, ambiguous because she doesn't wanna reveal exactly where it is. Um, it's
Like,
just, like, her experience growing up with her dad and her mom and how
she's like,
she's
"I was
just
too
treated
ugly
like
to
shit the
even
whole
be
time.
molested." Like, what?
That
What?
was
It's like, what?
if that's what you like in a book, I'm not trying to yuck your yum. It's certainly not what I do, but this is also our platform, and we're going to shit on it because we don't fucking care.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Like, Eileen, like, the thing is that, like, me and Mariah, like, I wonder if this is why, like, I think we talked about this on Bunny too whenever we read it, but it's like we don't typically vibe with, like, weird girl lit fic because, like, we grew up, we're autistic girls, and, like, those are already, like, othered in society and, like, othered in school. And so, like, seeing these people that are being like, oh, weird girl lit fic, like, I think these crazy thoughts too, where it's like, I'm so edgy and cool, where it's like, no, like, you think these other thoughts and people bully you for it.
Like, you don't even know and the thing is a lot of us, we didn't even know we were getting bullied. I'm gonna be
No.
so real. I was just like, "Dang," and then, like, that's really not nice for them to say, and I was just like, "No, they're my friends. I
Yeah.
don't know what you're talking about." Like, it's feels like my experience of being undiagnosed neurodivergent because high masking and socialization, and expectations from my family
Mhm.
I can operate and navigate a lot of social situations to an extent, and I can seem, like, perceivably normal, it's just until I open my mouth,
Yeah.
um, it goes to hell, but I've read so many other books that are better than this, exploring similar topics of just being weird
Yeah.
in society that aren't they don't feel like or at least they feel like they're written by somebody that's neurodivergent, where it doesn't feel moralizing.
Yeah. My culture is not your costume.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
um,
No,
but,
but
like,
for real, it does feel like it gives people empathy. They're like, "Wow, could you imagine living like this?" I'm like, "Yeah, what do we use every day?"
yeah, welcome to my life.
I feel like I read Boy Parts by Eliza Clark, and that was significantly better. It has an unlikable, unreliable main character. Fantastic. Milkfed has like a questionable main character. Weird, has a lot of struggles, deals with an eating disorder. Much better than this. Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. Another weird girl lit fic. Better than this. There's so many that are better that feel like genuine that you can get so much more enjoyment out of, and I just did not enjoy this at
No.
all. And
It
Chris and
was
I
so boring.
have such different tastes in books.
No, we
The
both didn't
fact that
like
we
it.
agree on the same thing that never happens. That's how you know it's really fucking bad if two people
But we also thought, like,
come
basically the
together.
same thing about My Year of Rest and Relaxation, where this like, these are so underwhelming. Like, I would rather read something like actually fucking crazy happening and not like literally this book did not get interesting until the 80% mark.
Honestly, okay, so in my head, I had, like, 2 situations where I thought this was gonna go, and I was like, "Okay, if this happens, this could be, like, a 4 or 5 star." I thought she was gonna go shoot up the
The
correctional and, like,
juvenile
kill all
center.
of the adults. I thought she was
Yeah,
gonna do that to all the boys, and I
I
was like,
didn't think
"Hell yeah,
that.
sign me up." I was like, "Well, maybe
I
she'll have this
thought
moment, she'll be like, 'Hell yeah,' and then she'll just, like, full send it, and Rebecca will be like, 'Nah, you took it too far.'"
I thought it was gonna be more. I don't know. I guess I well because like I did like whenever I first went into it, I thought it was gonna be like a be gay do crime book. Like her and Rebecca were gonna be lesbian together. They were gonna be killing
Like
people or
Bonnie and
something.
Clyde.
Like, yeah, like that sort of thing. But then, like, as I got further on, I was like, okay, absolutely nothing's happening. And like, I don't even know where this could go because, like, nothing's happening. Everybody in her fucking life sucks. All the workers suck. Her dad sucks. Everybody around her sucks except for Rebecca. So, like, maybe, like, something will go on with that. And then it just, like, completely went, like, out of nowhere with, like, Lee being relevant to the story. I'm like, why is this little boy, like, relevant? Like, this is supposed to be about Eileen.
Yeah, that was the twist. I was hoping that Rebecca was actually just Eileen. I thought it was an alter ego that
Oh,
she
no,
invented
shit
to
wasn't
be
real.
normal. Because it's like the opposite of herself, and I was like, well, maybe this is like part of her like
Oh, then
getting
it'd be
like
like Bunny.
confident. I was like, oh, I thought that's where it was going. No, let me down on two fronts. How is this unhinged? How? What do they think
But they
unhinged means? You want
didn't
to be
even, like
unhinged? I'll show you.
they didn't even, like and the fact that like, at the end, whenever, like, Mrs. Polk gets shot, it was, like, an accident too, like, they didn't even mean to, like, shoot her, and she's like, "Oh my god," and then like, Eileen still kills her, I'm like, "Oh, okay. So much for, like, being, like, over your sins or whatever," because, like, even then, like, Eileen and, like, Rebecca end up viewing themselves as, like, God or something where, like, they have to confess their sins to us to, like, become a better person, where it's like, "What are y'all talking about for real? What are y'all
And then
talking
people are
about?"
saying it's funny. They're like, "It was so funny and silly," and I was like,
I didn't laugh once.
"Did we
I
read the same book?"
I
I
laughed
don't
whenever she smelled her fingers after she was itching her coochie at work. I was like, "Oh,
She
okay." I was like, "That's this kind of a okay."
it started out
And then whenever
it
she
started out strong with the weird stuff, and I was like, "Okay,"
and she rubbed
and all these
Rebecca's
characters just
pubes
like
on her, but they weren't even Rebecca's pubes. That's the funniest
oh my god,
part.
they weren't.
That's the funniest
I
part.
forgot about that.
Yeah, because I was at her house.
Man, this book fucking sucked.
Well,
I've
because
never been so disappointed. Like, it's so hyped. This book is so hyped, and I
well, I mean,
apologize
they
for
made a
my filler
movie.
words, but and it got turned into a
The
movie.
movie is better. Yeah, I think you should watch the movie, Mariah, because like you could watch it with like somebody who hasn't experienced the story. You can get that shock in their face in the last scene. Because Tyler was kind of putting it together too, because there's like the scene whenever they're at the house, and the Tyler's like, "This is not her house." Like, no shit, Sherlock. It's fucking trashy. But I think if you haven't watched the movie, like you should. Like, I think you should still watch the movie. It's only an hour and a half. Like, it's really and it's honestly filmed like because it's like filmed almost like old timey.
I'll have to check it out. I don't know. Right now, I'll have to watch it with somebody else. I won't watch it on my own.
No, watch it with somebody else that hasn't experienced. Because then I do think it's very accurate to the book. And like I do think they don't make Eileen like as creepy as like she's in. Like she's still kind of creepy and weird, but I think it like works better in a movie sense. Like
I
the
think
way that
I'm
it's
so
portrayed, because you're not in her
frustrated.
head. Like you don't get her
Yeah,
unhinged
you're not,
thoughts.
like, in her head. But
Yeah,
I think I was looking forward to this and doing a character study, and it sets it up really nicely, and I could see, like, the class elements, and it falls off, and I don't feel like I can give a genuine analysis. It's because it's so lackluster, like,
it's just
there's
like
nothing to go off
words
of,
on a
like, she has
page. Like
alcoholic parents,
yeah,
okay, the house is a mess, she lives in the attic, and she pops laxative pills like it's going out of style, like,
yeah, that's
I
just
don't
disgusting.
what am I supposed to say? She likes to steal things.
Yeah, that's not really explored in the movie. either.
Like, I grew up
Or
poor,
the
that's what
laxative
everyone was doing on the
things.
weekends, so it's just fine. Like,
But she wasn't even stealing because she couldn't like afford anything. She was just stealing it for the thrill, like that typical like white women thievery.
she shoulda stole something cooler, like a
I
car.
got to steal a lipstick. But I did like her car because it reminded me of my car that I had in high school, where like if you drove with the windows up for too long, you were breathing in some exhaust. That's for damn sure. But it's worse on the passenger side, so Tyler had to deal with it more than I did.
I didn't have an
That's what's
old
wrong with
beater like
him.
that.
You didn't have a hoopty. Well, mine was a 2005 Volkswagen Bug, and I was driving it in like 2016, 2017 ish.
2006 Ford Focus for the longest time. I had it until I ran it into the ground.
No, I
Like, it's
traded
just
mine in
stopped.
because I needed a new car because I did have to I had to change I had to get a new alternator on it, and it's just one of those cars where it was so old and everything on like VW Bugs are like custom and like not easily replaceable. So it's like you have to do
You
all
didn't
of this
wanna keep
extra
your
work.
Polly
And
Pocket car?
I love that car. I would get another Bug. I love that Bug. It was so great
Do
because
you
you could
follow
drive it.
the ginger lady that's, like, getting her Polly Pocket car wrapped pink?
No.
She's
I
like,
drove a
"Saving
yellow
for
Bug.
my
It was
Polly Pocket."
yellow. And it was the best thing about driving around is whenever you saw people, you could see them just wailing on the person they were next to them. That's the best part. I swear to God, I saw so many people get punched whenever I drove past them. It was the best. That's why I liked it.
See, this is the weird we're the weird girl lit fake.
I
I
like
almost
people
feel
getting
like an
punched.
incel or something, like a pick me shitting on this so much because so many people like it, but I
But
think
it's
it's the
like,
opposite. I think it's pretentious. I think this is a prime example of a book that fits the definition of pretentious because it does think it's
yeah.
something more than it actually is.
I'm surprised you wouldn't go read Lapvana by her.
That was the first one I originally had wanted to read, and then I started seeing reviews of people, like, DNFing it and stuff because it was so slow, and I think he just likes to stick stuff up his butt. I think that's, like, what the the twist is. I'm
Fish.
not lying 'cause I
Who?
was reading reviews that there's some guy in the medieval times, and he just, like, puts things in
I
his
don't even know what
rectum.
it's about. I thought it was about sheep because the sheep on the cover.
Maybe he puts a sheep up there, I don't know.
Why is the sheep on the
Literally
cover?
don't know. I
It's sad because the Eileen cover kind of goes hard too.
It gives such a good vibe. I was very excited. I went out and bought this, and can I return it? Probably. I would feel really bad, though. I'm not going to be that person.
You didn't
It's
break the
here
spine,
now.
did you?
No,
Go.
I had to swap over to Kindle.
You can donate it to your local little free library or Pango Books. People sell their books all the time.
I don't think I want other people to read it. I
Yeah,
think the less in circulation, the better.
I read it on my Kindle, so it's
I
there
don't
forever.
support banning books, but I do support banning this book.
Ban all Otessa Moshfegh books. Nobody needs to read her anymore.
I hope
And
the Colleen treatment happens, like Colleen Hoover, where she's done writing. Otessa Moshfegh next, please.
Frida
And I'm
McFadden
sorry.
next, then her. Frida McFadden has much more evils. I'm sorry, but
So, anyways, I don't think we have anything else to say. I'm sorry
I,
this was not what it was chalked up to be, but I did spend a lot of time leading I researched so much about the Iran Revolution and like the White Revolution and the material conditions and US interventionism in the area at the time. It really consumed me today, and I it just really put a bad taste in my mouth for what her father could have been doing and how like the proletariat in Iran were under her. I would love to know if anyone can find anything. Or the only thing I can think is maybe the documents with his name are in some form of like Arabic, and I can't Google
read them.
that because
Yeah,
I don't have the same like keyboard. I
keyboard.
can't find it. There's nothing about him except now he plays violin
Wow.
at some observatory. I don't know.
Okay.
It's very strange.
Well, I guess if y'all have anything of that nature, send it Mariah's way. DMs are open.
It better
Um,
be good.
other than
Oh, I thought
that,
you meant for like a book, not the resource. Yes, the
oh,
resources.
Other than that, next episode will be Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, finishing out our Hunger Games month once and for all,
God,
and
I
we will
hope it's
never have
better.
to talk about Hunger Games again.
I will see if it's a cash grab. At this point,
Let's
I don't
see.
really know.
Hopefully, we're
So
having.
we don't think it's gonna sell out right now. That is the speculation from an inside source,
I do not believe
inside
that
trader.
inside source. The inside source
I
is.
don't know. I
Yeah,
haven't
that's
seen anyone
lying.
talk about it. If I'm gonna be honest, we're gonna
I
find
have
out what
though.
it's gonna be, and we're going to post
It
it
comes out
next week.
tomorrow. So then also join the book club so you can read hopefully a better book with us next month.
I think
On
it's gonna
Fable.
be an anti-capitalist political, like the politics of it. We want to make an
Science fiction.
anti-capitalist science fiction, so it's gonna fall into that category. That's what the polls showed. Um,
Yes. That's what
so I'm gonna pick some stuff and
club.
throw it up in there.
I guess that's it. Lit Lib Pod on Fable if you want to join the book club. I think that's it. Thank you and good night.